completely and totally co-opting what we've worked so hard for in the last few years. It seems like a page right out of COINTELPRO, Bob.
Well, it's the protected opposition. In other words, the opposition is now going to be controlled by the puppet masters in Washington, if you may. And it was to be expected. I mean, they've had some of these change agents working for years, but now they're going at it big time in order to neutralize what we're doing.
Yeah, it is unbelievable that more people can't see through this guy who is completely and totally disingenuous. But I guess when you get up on television and you start to put on a big fake crying act and you love this country, you're going to sucker a lot of the rubes in. And again, it is just so upsetting that they can understand now that the Federal Reserve banking system is corrupt. But it seems like as soon as they figured that out, it doesn't matter because the IMF comes in and they're going to print a world currency. And the G20 comes in and says they're going to have a new global regulation system for world banking. And we're just going to muscle out any of these third world nations or second world nations that don't want to go along. And we're going to make it illegal to basically build any kind of infrastructure in your own country if it doesn't benefit these other countries. I mean, that's basically what they're saying is, you know, we can't have these protectionist policies. That means no infrastructure in the U.S. economy. You know, they want to build an infrastructure in their North American Union economy. I think that's what we're going to see with this presidency, a North American Union by 2012.
Well, that's what they're looking for. And so far, we've shot them down. The only thing they're still doing is harmonizing, which means they're taking existing laws that are in the United States and they're matching them up with Canada and Mexico. And Canada and Mexico are now labeling their foods with how much salt and sugar and whatever they've got in the contents of the can or the bottle. And they're just trying to make the regulations the same so that when they're ready to go, all that groundwork will be done. You know, even today, when you send things across borders from the United States to Canada, they now want an explanation of what is being sent and what is it and what does it do and what is the tax ID number of the person who's sending it or their Social Security number. You talk about police state. And this is getting worse by the day. And if you people out there don't think it is, you're wrong. It's dreadful. And, you know, this whole thing is just closing in on us like a giant amoeba that's going to be able to smother us all in the final analysis with new laws and new rules and many of the things that we've discussed on the show before. And they're working on all fronts, and yes, they're out in the open. And yes, now they try to co-opt what we're doing. They're not going to be successful. It's just going to make our work harder. Our problem is we don't have enough Alex Joneses. You know, we need 3 or 4 or 5,000 of them all over the world yelling at the top of their lungs, this is what these cretins are trying to do to you. That's our problem. Nobody's got the guts to get out there and tell people the truth and take the slings and arrows from government and being audited by the IRS 15 or 20 years in a row and all of the harassment that goes with it.
Yeah, it seems like people really need to step up to the plate, especially in light of things like the MIAC report that was out there, and that definitely seems like it was out on a federal level. I had somebody call into my program this week, and his girlfriend got pulled over in Los Angeles County, and she asked why she was pulled over, and literally the cop told her, we pulled you over because of your Ron Paul bumper sticker. So that tells me that MIAC report has a large reach. You know, they weren't kidding when they said they were going to put it federally in public and private sectors across the country. It obviously went through that way. And for somebody to be pulled over for a bumper sticker for a third-party political candidate, and not really even a third-party political candidate, a Republican political candidate that the establishment doesn't like, is just beyond Orwellian to me.
It's mind control. It's total control. And that's why so many people are leaving the country. I don't know that they're going to be any better off anyplace else, but they think they are. That was what I was going to say. Where do people think they're going to run from this? This G20 was a global summit.
They literally talked about having sanctions against countries that don't go along with it. I mean, they're talking about, for instance, let's see. We reaffirm the commitment made in Washington to refrain from raising new barriers of investment or to trade of goods and services or imposing new export restrictions or implementing the World Trade Organization's inconsistent measures to stimulate exports with each other. So in other words, they're creating a system where there are no barriers of trade, where there are no tariffs. It will be a truly global economy for those who work with them, but we won't be able to produce anything. We'll have to take what we can get. And when they talk about sustainability, that means less and less and less. I mean, how do you feel when you hear the right-hand man of Gordon Brown saying that the UK's population has to dip from 70 million people to 30 million? I mean, how does that even work? How is that going to happen in the next 20 years if they don't plan on killing a bunch of us, Bob?
That's right. Or they're going to put in breeding controls, like the Chinese have for so long, and then it'll be selective breeding, and everybody will be DNA'd, and they'll say, okay, that couple over there, who we told to get married, they can breed, and everything works out all right. The boys that come through will be engineers, and the girls that come through will be doctors, or something like that. I mean, this is how unbelievable this is, but this was all this information was available to us in the 1960s. And, you know, we were screaming at the top of our lungs. Nobody wanted to hear it. It's here.
Yeah, it is here. And no, it is now. And people like Alex Jones have been screaming this at the top of their lungs for over a decade. I guess we got that 30 seconds of vindication from Lord Hannity, but that's not what we want. What we want is people to step up and say no. What we want is people to join an organization like Campaign for Liberty and become a city council member, become the mayor of their town, become a congressman, challenge these positions. We can have a government for and by the people if we act now. If we decide now that we want to be proactive, if we decide that this G20 communique is not for us, it doesn't benefit us, if we decide that the GIVE Act was a bad idea, if we expose what's in the GIVE Act, we already exposed a bunch of what was in the GIVE Act, Bob, and it seems like they pulled a lot of that legislation out and had to redistribute it in other legislation like 1444, but it got taken out of 1388. Case in point, 1710 was the Electronic Citizen Verification ID Act. And they were going to use the Department of Education and this new corporation, the National Service Corporation, that they created in the bill to implement this. So in other words, it was going to be a real ID act for everybody in this country, even children. Well, last I checked, and I checked it last night, the final version of that bill didn't have 1710 in it. Did they sneak it in somewhere else? They may have, but we caused enough of an uproar that it didn't make it there. We can make a difference, Bob.
Your influence counts. You got to use it. And if you don't, you're going to die by attrition. I mean, these people are serious. I mean, what do you think at my late age? I'm doing 20 programs a week. You know, all the other people who are 73 are either dead or they're in a rocking chair watching television all day. And I understand what's going on, and I spend my time at it. But that's why. I mean, I'm trying to help people. And Alex is doing the same thing, and so are you. You people got to respond. You've got to do something to help yourselves.
That's right, and that's why, you know, one of the things that we're going to be doing this July 4th is InfoWarrior Independence Day, and no matter whether you're a member of We Are Change or TruthAction.org or Lone Lantern or none of the above, if you're just an independent thinking human being, we're encouraging people to go out, to these fireworks, to these picnics, to these community events, hand out DVDs, hand out paperwork, hand out information, and make a presence known. Say, hey, we're trying to take this country back. This is what's really going on. I know you're enjoying your burger and your hot dog, and there's going to be a show later, but we may not have this next year. And what is Independence Day if we can't keep what's left of our eviscerated Bill of Rights and Constitution? I mean, what is left in this country if we can't go out to other human beings and say, hey, this is what's important?
Well, you know, one of the things I came across in the last several weeks is more and more people in the military are learning what's going on. And I got 3 questions yesterday on one of the programs that caters to military, both active as well as retired. And they're saying, gee, I really don't want to re-enlist. I like the Army or the Marines or whatever. but I'd like to come out into civilian life, but there's no jobs. What am I to do? I don't have any choice. I got to re-enlist and probably get shipped over to Afghanistan, which I really don't want to do because I don't believe in it, because I know what they're up to. I mean, just think if you were in that kind of position.
Well, a lot more people are going to be in those positions. I mean, a lot more people are about to be in those positions because this economy is going to drop even further. People are going to lose their pensions. They're going to lose their jobs. And instead of going into the traditional military, this GIVE Act tells people in Section 1801 and others that they can do full-time, quote-unquote, volunteer service. But if it's full-time, they're going to get a paycheck. Obviously, this corporation and these foundations that they're setting up are going to have to employ somebody. Yeah, they're going to employ the masses they're about to lay off in the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. I mean, it's happening, folks. The New World Order is here, and they're announcing it on the world stage at the G20. We'll be back with the final segment with Bob Chapman.